What's going on, guys? Pat here, and in today's video we are going to start discussing the history of the 442. So I thought it would be fun to do a little series discussing the actual history of the 442. I knew I'll do a lot of videos working on my car, talking about some of the parts I'm using, but I also thought it would be fun to get into the history of the car itself. Where did it start? How did it change throughout the model years? This series is really going to focus on 64 to 72. I'm probably going to break it up into smaller sections. I'll do like 64 and 65 together, which will be in this video, then like 66, 67, 68, 69, and then I'll probably do 70 to 72 in its own video as well. Just to put this information out there, because there might be a lot of people who are wondering how the car changed throughout the years, or what are some of the nuances of certain model years. So this isn't going to be crazy in depth, but I just kind of want to give an overview of how the car changed throughout those sort of golden years. Now, 1964 marked the birth of the 442, and this was really in response to Pontiac's GTO, which came out the same model year. Oldsmobile had seen the success that Pontiac was having with that car, and they wanted to launch their own competitor ASAP to fill that same niche in the market of having a performance-oriented, intermediate-based car. Now, since Oldsmobile quickly wanted to get the car out, it was a little bit of a parts bin special for 1964. It was listed under the RPO code B09, which was titled the Police Apprehender Package, and that package consisted of a 310 horsepower, 355 pound-feet of torque producing 330 cubic inch V8, which was backed by a 4-speed transmission, had dual exhaust, was fed by a 4-barrel carburetor, and pulled air through a dual snorkel air filter. Now, the package also included the heavy-duty suspension from their police apprehension package on the full-size cars, which included heavy-duty spsprings, bigger front sway bar, and included a rear sway bar. Now, there weren't too many 64 442s sold. There was only 2,999, which was mostly due to the fact that Oldsmobile probably didn't advertise it as well as they should have. Like I said before, they kind of rushed it out the door to get it competing with the GTO. So it was a bit of a mixed bag for 64. They just wanted to get a car out there that could compete with the GTO, so they didn't spend a lot of time advertising or really developing it for that first model year. Now, what's cool for 64 is that you could get it on any F85 or Cutlass, which is the same car, basically just different trim levels, in any configuration except the wagon, which means that there are some 64 442 sedans out there. They're extremely rare. I believe there's only 8 that are documented to exist, but that number varies depending on what source you use. But they are out there, which is really cool, and to my knowledge, that's the only model year that you could actually get a 442 in the sedan configuration. Now, the 64 442 wasn't necessarily the most exciting or groundbreaking of all the 442s or of all the muscle cars, but it is an important milestone because it did mark the start of the cars, and it really laid the groundwork for what was to come from Oldsmobile. So in 1965, we started to see a few notable changes to the 442. First off, there was a few styling changes, which I'll put up pictures to compare the 1964 and 1965 442s. Front end design was a little different. The tail panel on the car was a little different. The 65 442 had louvers on the quarter panels. The badges were in different locations, so little things like that. It wasn't a complete and total redesign, but you could definitely tell there were several updates and changes made to the styling on the car. On a performance and mechanical side, most notably, the engine changed from the 330 cubic inch V8 in 1964 up to a 400 cubic inch V8 in 65. These are 1 year only, B-coded, short stroke 400, so not the exact same as the ones in the 66 and 67. That is notable. That is the only year of the B-coded 400. In 66 and 67, it got the E-code 400. But going back to 65, the transmission options were also a little different. You could get it with a 3-speed manual, the 4-speed manual, and for the first time in 442 history, the 2-speed Jetaway automatic. And thus, in 1965, the 442 moniker changed from 4-speed 4-barrel dual exhaust, or 4-barrel 4-speed dual exhaust in 64, to 4-barrel 400 cubic inch dual exhaust in 65, because obviously you could get it without the 4-speed. So that original 442 moniker only stood for 1 year. Now, in 65 as well, you could see that there was a big jump in sales. There was only 2,999 sold in 64, like I said, and there was around 25,000 sold in 1965. Now, a lot of this probably had to do with better advertising, the increased performance. It was more of a standalone, unique package compared to 1964. And in 65, you really saw a switch of Oldsmobile starting to promote this as a car for young people, people who wanted to get a performance car. They really drove that home, which is something you see consistently throughout the 1960s, and that really started in 65. And obviously it worked. You saw the huge, tenfold almost increase in sales compared to 64. So this kind of rounds out the first sort of iteration of the car. And starting in 66, you start seeing a little more significant tweaks, which we'll get to in the next video. But this was really them starting to refine the concept of the 442, and this general layout was something they would play with for the next couple of years as far as the drivetrain goes. They start getting into some cool options, most importantly the W30, which we'll talk about in the next video. But this was really Oldsmobile's first big step of taking the initial idea of the 442 and really refining it and developing it into something that was really cool in 65 and something they would play on for the rest of the decade. So that does it for this part of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think it's fun to talk about the history of the cars. I'm a little bit of a history nerd myself, so I love talking about this stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Leave a like if you did. Feel free to leave a comment if there was something you found interesting, if there's something I didn't talk about in this video that you wanted me to, and subscribe if you want to see more. I'll see you guys in the next one.